What's up, everyone? It's Noah Daniels.
Hey, y'all, I'm JJ.
Hey, guys, it's Kat.
And we're your hosts of the Real Hauntings podcast, where we bring on guests to share their first-hand encounter ghost stories and supernatural experiences. Now on to the trailer.
I've been warned to not tell this story, but I think because of the way it ends, it's okay to tell this story, because some people say that with certain entities, to speak of them or talk about them or in any way portray them as powerful will attract them to other people. The creepiest thing about it to me is a lot of times it would wait for me to notice it. It would just lay its arm out like this, and then I'd be like, where is it? Where is it? And then I'd see it, and then it would just slither back.
For more information on the Real Hauntings, Real Ghost Stories podcast, make sure you check out real.fm to learn more about our podcast and many other amazing podcasts.
Hi, this is Rob Benedict.
And I am Richard Spate. We were both on a little show you might know called Supernatural.
It had a pretty good run, 15 seasons, 327 episodes.
And though we have seen, of course, every episode many times, we figured, hey, now that we're wrapped, let's watch it all again.
And we can't do that alone, so we're inviting the cast and crew that made the show along for the ride. We've got writers, producers, composers, directors, and we'll of course have some actors on as well, including some certain guys that played some certain pretty iconic brothers.
It was kind of a little bit of a left field choice in the best way possible.
The note from Kripke was, he's great, we love him, but we're looking for a really intelligent Duchovny type.
With 15 seasons to explore, it's going to be the road trip of several lifetimes. So please join us and subscribe to Supernatural Then and Now.
Let's hang out. Let's hang out. And let's talk about what lessons have found. Let's hang out. And let's listen to two lesbians shout. Let's hang out. Let's hang out.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Hang Out. To those of you who have been with us through this whole journey, thank you as always for listening. And if you're a new listener, welcome. We're excited to have you here. Here's what's happening this week.
This Week in the Lesdom. This Week in the Lesdom is a place where we can touch base each episode about things going on with the podcast or otherwise. And the first is all our events coming up in January and February. Our first event is going to be Astrological Family Feud, which is Family Feud but based on astrological signs, because what is more gay than astrology and your chosen family? That's going to be in Boston on January 9th.
We also are going to have another L Word trivia. That's going to be in New York City at Henrietta Hudson's on January 23rd.
We're also having another L Word trivia event in Denver on January 31st. I will be attending that one, so I'm so excited to see all of our Denver listeners there.
I'm jealous of that. I'm also jealous of the first Winona Earp trivia night in Boston, so check it out, Earpers. It's going to be February 22nd. You do not want to miss it.
If you want to have trivia in your city, we're also hiring trivia hosts, so email us at leshangoutpod@gmail.com if you're interested in bringing Les Hangout trivia to a city near you.
And just as a reminder, after this week, you are going to have to last 3 whole weeks without us. It's going to be rough over the holidays, I know, but be strong. We will be back, having new episodes coming back starting on January 13th.
We are so excited to be back with you all. But for now, that's what's happening this week. Back to you, Ellie and Lee.
Thanks, Ellie and Lee. Now, before we take our hiatus over the holidays, we wanted to bring you some of the interviews that we recorded while we were in New Orleans for the weekend soiree. So if you haven't heard us talk about that yet, you should definitely check it out. It is a queer women's weekend retreat that just took place in New Orleans. There's going to be another one next year in DC. It is a ton of fun. It is primarily a space for queer folks and for queer people of color. And Ellie and I were so excited to be able to go this year. It was just a magical time. And while we were there, we got the opportunity to do 2 interviews that we want to bring you the audio from. So we're going to start out with our interview with Amber Whittington of Amber's Closet. We are super excited to have Amber Whittington, who is a YouTuber, a social media influencer, and the star of Amber's Closet. Not her name, though.
Yeah, not my last name, yeah.
So, Amber, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We're so excited. So what we're going to be talking about today, you've been a YouTuber for a very long time.
7
right? How
years
long?
this month.
Yeah, 7 years. What has it been like for you trying to navigate living your private life in a very public way?
Yeah, I've just always been a very open book. But coming out took me a long time. So then when I finally came into myself, I exploded. And so one of the things that I did was coming out online, right? Because certain people knew, like certain friends and like a couple relatives, right? But not everybody. So instead of just like doing it on Facebook or whatever, telling everybody or allowing my family members to tell everybody, I literally majority of them found out through my coming out video on YouTube. When I finally came to that conclusion, I got so confident in myself that I was like, I'm not worried about anybody else's opinion, that I'm going to share my stories because I feel like, and being an open book because I feel like it will help somebody else.
Have there ever been like any moments where you're like, I really wish that like I didn't have to share this part of my, like, I know obviously but there's a lot of stuff over 7 years, right?
Yeah. I think, to be honest, I have had 2 internet breakups, right? I wish that I could share with people the reason why with the first one, because automatically I feel like a lot of people turned on me and automatically thought that, I did something wrong in general. But in reality, like I was the one that was hurt by the situation. So it's like, I wish maybe I dialed some of that back, but then at the same time, since I put it out there, I wish I can just like really tell them what's up. But I didn't want to negatively affect her because she was still a YouTuber.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like we did a workshop this morning on building community and social media, and we talked a lot about like being authentic, and how like that to us is like a huge part of building community. But then also there is that kind of like double-edged sword sometimes where you're like, you have to be real, but you don't want to be too real.
Right.
And sometimes like the reality, you don't want to hurt other people. And like, yeah, how do you kind of balance those two? Like they're very opposite things,
Yeah, I talked about this. I did a branding workshop yesterday, and I talk about authenticity and like finding your true authentic self and your voice within that, because I think that when you put yourself out there, it's really important to be authentic because people can read through bullshit. Can I cuss on here?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, shit. Okay, so people can read through bullshit, but then there is a difference between finding your authentic voice and then the self you project, you know what I'm saying? And then realizing that and being able to be like, oh, am I staying true to myself? Because that's what's important at the end of the day. And I think that I've been able to find that balance because I'm just like so myself that I'm able to see even when I tweak it just a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not staying true to myself. So I talked about this in the branding workshop with passion, doing what you're passionate about and how that's like correlates to like being your authentic self. If you're passionate about what you're doing and putting out there, then I think that goes with, oh, I'm being true to myself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Because also like this persona that you're putting out there, if you have to be like a completely different person in your persona every time you make a YouTube video or every time you're out in public, like that is so, it's like far less exhausting to just try to be yourself in whatever you're presenting.
Yeah.
So
and
that
people can read through that. And then it's just, I don't know, what is your end goal here? Like, what are you trying to do? You know?
Well, for you, what's your end goal?
I started my YouTube channel to help others so they can help find themselves faster and easier than I was able to. Because like I said, it took me way too long to come out, and that bothered me that I allowed other people's opinions or whatever that they thought about me, or that I played basketball, or all these stereotypes that were put on me. I hated that I allowed them to keep me from finding my true self. So because of that, I wanted to help everybody else not be afraid to do that and like be on their path or be able to come out easier than I was able to. So that's why I did it, and that's why I continue. So I feel a sense of responsibility to keep up with that.
I'm curious too, like as not just like a queer woman, but like also a queer woman of color.
Yeah.
That like you are a super visible like piece of representation, like as that sort of like objectified way that's going to become for a lot of people, but like what does that mean for you to like be that to so many people out there who like don't have that ability to see themselves a lot of other places?
Yeah, it feels amazing each day. I'm like thankful and appreciative that I even have the platform to even share my opinions and to help others and be that representation for them. And then I see my other friends that do the same thing, and it's crazy because we're all considered queer women of color or people of color, but like we're so different. So we each give off and tell a different story that someone can relate to, but it's all about representation, right? And I want to, like, if I get to get pushed up and I'm seen at that level, I'm trying to pull others too, because it's just really important for us to have our stories told from our voice, because so many times before our voices weren't heard, or if they were told through someone else's perspective of our life, right?
Yeah.
So it's like us being able to now do that. Like I said, I just feel so appreciative to be able to do that. But it's a struggle, because being that and also being a queer person in general on YouTube, being a woman of color, being a person of color in general on YouTube is hard. And then talking about social issues, like that also just like, like YouTube doesn't like any of those categories, and I'm all three of those. So it's always a battle I'm facing to prove the worth of my audience to YouTube as well as other brands, right? But I have fun doing that too.
How did you get started? Tell us a little bit about how you started the whole YouTube channel.
Yeah, it started because my sister, Ashton's Closet. So we were both fashion girls, and we had Instagrams already before, or like for YouTube or whatever. But my sister was doing YouTube before we had Instagram. But we're very fashion forward, but we're opposite. So she was doing videos in her closet, giving style advice in the most feminine way, all these the high heels and stuff like that. And I was making fun of her and her friends that did YouTube because they did it way before it got cool. I mean, I was, but my sister was doing it 10, 11 years ago, right? I started 7 years ago. Yeah, I would make fun of her, but then when I did a sister tag challenge with her, and it was like one of her most popular videos. And in that, like, majority of the comments were like, oh my God, have your sister make a YouTube channel, because I emphasized in the video that I'm a tomboy, and people were like, whoa, there's none of this on the internet. Finally I did, and then my sister threatened my life. It was like, if you make a channel and don't call it Amber's Closet, I'm gonna kill you. So like I was like, oh, I got you. That was easy. So and also I feel like I had a nice closet. So I was like, oh, this goes both ways. Like, I'm showing fashion and helping people come out of the closet. Boom, so that's how I got my start.
Were you already out when you started your channel?
No, only to, like I was saying, close friends, like my best friends and maybe a couple other people. I was always only out to my basketball teams since high school. Right, because that was the only so gay, right? Yeah. Because that was and not at my Catholic high school that was predominantly Caucasian, not there, but at my schools, like my basketball team that were like the elite teams of like, the best from each school. So like somebody finally, like one person said, oh, I like this girl, and then everybody's like, oh shit. Okay, well, me too, and then me too. And then so you would find in that circle that, okay, we can be open with each other about our sexuality, but nowhere else. I was afraid to do that anywhere else. I didn't come out to people besides my girlfriends and basketball teams until junior year of college, which is way too long. And then I started telling a few people after that, my mom, my dad, and then the internet.
I also came out junior year of college, so I understand. But I was like I didn't even kiss a girl till junior year of college. So like you're fine.
No, I'm not, because you didn't kiss a girl till junior year of college. Yeah. But I already had 3-4 girlfriends by then. So why did it take so long? Because I already knew that I was comfortable with girls more than guys. I tried it. I didn't have sex with dudes. I'm a gold star, by the way.
So
I don't know if that's TMI.
Yes.
Okay, yay! Look at this. I was dating dudes, but I could already tell I was more comfortable with girls, and that's what I preferred. So the fact that I knew all of that and had all this experience and still let it take me that long, like, I'm mad at myself still. I'm like thinking back on it, like,
in hindsight, I totally understand, but it's like at a certain point, like when you're in it, it's so hard. Like you're like, it was so easy. Now I feel great, but like there's so much more to it then. But that's why I think it is important that you have your channel and you have your platform for people who are like, she can do it, so can I. Yeah. 100%.
It's also like junior year of college. We're not that old, Yeah. You're like 20, 21. Like, I mean, in the grand scheme of life, like that's still pretty. I know you do at the time, but like it's really not.
It's circumstantial because like I moved out from my mom's house at 16, right? And I had my own apartment. So she chose to move far with her new husband, which I did not like at all. My sister and I were uncomfortable around him. I had a scholarship to a private school, which was like the best in the city. So she already lived pretty far from the school. So my sister and I chose our great education over my mom, but we felt like my mom chose the relationship, right? So we grew up really early because at 16 and 17, we had to live on our own, cook for ourselves, which was cool, and like make sure that we get to the school that was already 40 minutes from our house, right? And so we had to wake up earlier than everybody. We were at school longer than most people because all the clubs I was involved in, as well as basketball team and stuff like that. So I literally had a 6 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. day every single day of like going hard, so that made me feel like I grew up early. Because college was a breeze to me compared to how hard my high school was. So I felt very grown, and I think that that's kind of why I'm in my head about, like, it took me too long. I grew up so early.
But you did come out.
Yeah.
Eventually.
There's kids coming out at 12.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I met an 8-year-old trans boy the other day who literally is my inspiration now. You know what I mean?
Man, I think the youths have got it, like they're getting there. They're like getting there so much faster than I think we did.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like, they're so much more aware. Like
role models now, right?
Absolutely.
I wish that I had, this is not trying to be cocky, but like, I wish that I had a me. Anybody. I wish I had an Ari Fitz when I was younger. I wish that I had anybody that is that for the younger crowd, because now people come up to me and they're like, oh my God, I watched you in middle school and high school. I'm like, oh, am I that old now? But honestly, like to have that when I was younger, if I had that, it would have made my life make more sense. And I would have gotten to where, I was comfortable with myself earlier,
Yeah.
I knew I liked women very early, but I didn't know what that meant. I went to a Catholic school.
Yeah. Right.
They're not trying to teach me that.
They're like the word lesbian didn't exist for a long time. The word gay
they
didn't
even talk
exist for a
about
long
gay
time.
people.
Yeah.
They just talk
No, I
about
get it.
sins, you know what I'm saying? And follow the Bible. And I'm like, wait, because your Bible doesn't make sense either. But that's a whole other topic. I was that kid in school. Like, what you're saying doesn't make sense. You know this, right?
Hashtag representation matters.
Yes.
We get it. Yeah. No, but it is though. It's why we always say with the podcast, like our whole thing was to make the podcast that like we wanted to listen to.
Yes.
And like that's a real motivation, I think, as we all realize like we're not 16 anymore. We're not juniors in college anymore, and like you can put your voice out there and you can put your stories out there and your life out there and like do it in a way that gives people that chance to understand themselves a bit better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's literally what I lead with every time I describe myself. I'm like, I want others to know that they have a voice, that their voice matters, and that they should use their voice, right? Because I think that's the thing is like majority of getting people to know that like, hey, did you know that you matter and that you have a voice, you can use it, and then if you use it, you're helping others. I think so many people don't realize that. And so I just love trying to spread that message.
Yeah. I feel like that is a perfect like bow on this conversation.
Yay.
And also like I felt like you were staring into Lee's soul. Like and now Lee's like, I matter.
You guys know, look, you're using your voice in this.
We really appreciate you coming and talking to us. Where can people find you if they want to watch your YouTube channel or all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's Amber's Closet on social media, Amber's Closet on Instagram and YouTube, Amber's Closet 33 on Twitter. Oh yeah, on Facebook. I do post stuff on Facebook as well. I need to be better at that. But yeah, that's where you can find me. I do have some projects coming out. But if you follow me on Instagram, I'm going to show you. Yeah, I don't worry to find those things.
Great.
But I just want to leave with how I leave every video is I love you guys. Stay amazing, stay proud, and stay woke.
Thank you so much. Hey everyone. For our next interview, we got a chance to sit down with Dr. Lakara Foster. We do just want to mention we recorded this in a different room than our interview with Amber, so the audio is a little bit more echoey, but we hope that you enjoy listening to the conversation. We had such a great time, and she had so many really interesting things to say. If you're not familiar with Dr. Foster, you should check out, she has a series on YouTube called The Gift, where she shares her gift as a medium with different people in every episode. It's really incredible, and we were so excited that we got a chance to sit down and talk to her. So we are so excited to bring you our live episode from New Orleans at the Weekend Soiree. We have our first guest joining us,
who is Dr. Lakara Foster.
Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. I'm excited that you guys chose to interview me.
We are so excited. Thank you so much. So we are excited to talk to Dr. Lakara. She is a proud native of New Orleans, Louisiana, currently stars in the new YouTube show The Gift, a web series following her life as a medium, minister, and spiritual teacher. Yes. And we're here today to chat about being LGBTQ and reconciling that with your spirituality. So,
absolutely, yes.
So, which I feel like is two things that you are and do very well. Yes, I hope.
Absolutely.
So, why don't you speak to that a little bit? How did you get into what you do now?
I'm sorry, LGBT. Oh no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both.
Was born with both. So with my gift, I would say that I've been practicing for over 20 years, but it's something that I knew that I had even as a kid. I just didn't know. I didn't have the language to articulate what this was. I knew that. I thought for a while as a kid, everybody, could just knew different things or saw different things. But I got to be a teenager and knew that was not the case. And then just really began it when I saw that I could help people with it. Just about in college, I started using it. And honestly, like as far as reconciling it, I don't think that it's ever really. So I tell people I didn't grow up in church, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you are Black and LGBT and grew up in church, you are probably all messed up right now, right? Just a lot of issues. Yeah. And so I've had a lot of my colleagues or counterparts to say that they've had to do a lot of undoing, in terms of theology or bad theology around their sexuality. And so that just was not the case for me because I didn't grow up in church. Like we went to church, but some of my counterparts, like they grew up in church and Sunday Bible study and, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that just was not my experience. So I just kind of really felt like, God loved me. Like, why wouldn't God love me? I'm like, I'm awesome. So we just always had that relationship, I feel like.
And so you got started as a minister. When did that start?
I became a licensed minister actually last year, this is in 2018, in June of 2018. I became a licensed minister. And it is not something that was like on my to-do list or anything like that. It just, my father has always said, he's like, you're going to preach the word of God because you come from a long line of women ministers. And honestly, I would be like, I don't know how I'm going to do that with this Hennessy in my hand. I don't know,
Yeah.
But one day I was in church and it's just, I talked to God pretty much like I'm sitting here talking to you all. And I just heard God say, like, it's time, Just started kind of going.
Ladies and gentlemen.
What are you doing?
What do you mean?
Just keep it simple.
I'm making the promo.
Just keep it simple. Just say, hey, we're the Brav Bros. Two guys that talk about Bravo.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're the Brav Bros.
No.
Oh.
Dude, stop with the voice. Just keep it simple.
I've seen promos on TV, dude. This is how you get the fans engaged. This is how you get listeners. We're trying to get listeners here. If we just say, oh, we're two dudes that talk about Bravo, people are going to get tired of it already. We need some oomph.
All right, then fine. Let's try to do it with your voice.
Brav Bros.
Good job.
Hello, my name is Alison Larkin, and I'm a writer, comedian, and narrator and host of the Jane Austen podcast. This podcast brings Jane Austen's stories to the 21st century, along with commentary from me and conversations with fascinating people who all share a love of Jane Austen. And of course, we had to start with none other than Pride and Prejudice. So join me as we embark on a journey through some of the most wonderful stories I know. The Jane Austen podcast with Alison Larkin is available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hi, I'm Laura Cathcart-Robbins, and I am the host and creator of the podcast, Only One in the Room. Every week, my co-host Scott Slaughter and I invite you to join us and lose yourself in someone's only one story. The Only One in the Room has a wide variety of guests, from prisoners to abuse survivors to swingers. With 21 seasons and counting, we guarantee that Only One in the Room will have a story that you'll connect with. This podcast is for anyone who has ever felt alone in a room full of people, which is to say that this podcast is for everyone.
With something like 5 million podcasts, finding a really good one can take a ton of time. So let me recommend one. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and in each episode we discuss topics that can be really helpful, like how to read people better, the psychology of crowds, Or fun things like the story of Legos, or why you probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for horses. Something You Should Know is the name of it, wherever you get your podcasts.
Down that path.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What has your experience been with working with other queer people and how they relate to spirituality as opposed to something like the church? You know, like you were saying, a lot of people have pretty messed up relationships with the church.
I think it's so interesting because a lot of people really could not reconcile their LGBT with their faith, really without finding, I believe, like the right sanctuary or the right, church or the right leadership. I believe that I am fortunate enough. I attend the Vision Church of Atlanta under Bishop O.C. Allen, who is openly gay. He has a husband. He has 2 children. And he's very esteemed. He has worked with Obama. He works with Mayor Keisha Bottoms in Atlanta. He's just a very esteemed. And so I think for myself and other people who attend this church, it's like you see, oh yeah, you can be LGBT and love God and Jesus and still do your life's work without feeling, like you're condemned. But I think that example is something that a lot of people don't get to see. I think that even being in Atlanta, I think we really take for granted this amazing church that we have with this amazing bishop that we have who is authentic and open and, fights for LGBT rights, but also fights for social justice. And so, you might get to, North Carolina, South Carolina, they don't have that, or some other small city that doesn't have an affirming church. And I think that there's a difference between, because, people go to church and sometimes they have to sit up under, pastors who are constantly bashing them or constantly in one way or another telling them this is wrong, but what do you do when there's no other church or this is the church that you grew up in? And so I have found that a lot of honestly, I'm probably I have a large circle of friends, but I might be like the only one that's like involved in the church, and other, the other ones, they are very much spiritual and have their own spiritual practices that they do. But for me, I like it. And I didn't choose this until I was, in my 30s. So, yeah.
I understand. I come from a Catholic church,
yeah.
which is obviously has a lot of baggage. Yeah. But I can understand, like, I grew up in the church and that was my community.
Yes.
Right? So it's like wanting that sense of community, but having that community sometimes reject you, which can be really hard.
Yeah.
And I think it can be difficult to, like, have that, go away from it because sometimes you need to. Like, in order to accept yourself, you can't be around people who are rejecting you. Absolutely. And then finding some other sort of way to connect back with your faith or some sort of spirituality. Yeah. I think there's a lot of people that, like, have a similar path.
And I think some people are yearning for that. And I think even with my gift, in getting my doctorate, it was the title of my project was Making an Inclusion for the Gift of Psychic Mediumship Among the Spiritual Gifts of the Modern Church. And so really looking at how people with this gift could also feel included. Because really outside of myself, and I will say this, like, now that I'm out, right? So I'm like, okay, came out being gay a long time ago. Now I'm like, now I got to come out as being a medium in the church, right? Imagine that, right? And so I tell people, like, this is my last time coming out. Like, I'm not coming out. I have nothing else to come out about. Now that I'm out, there are other people who are in the church who have been hiding, their gift, whether it is psychic or medium or whatever it is, that people will text me or call me and say, I didn't know that I could be this and that. Well, this has been Lakara her whole life. Like, I'm going to be what I'm going to be, And so I have looked at, like, what if the tarot reader wants to be Christian, or the astrologer wants to follow Christ? Is there room in the church to be able to have these gifts and be a part of this? And so I'm finding that it is a lot of conversation around it. And interestingly enough, there was an article written in the Christian Post, and it said, Atlanta church hires psychic medium. First of all, I am not hired by my church, right? And the church has not, hired me for this gift. I do work in my church, but I'm not on payroll or anything like that. And so the article has been shared, I don't know, like 60,000 times, right? But what it has done is really, like, there's so much conversation about it, about the gifts and about where the gifts come from and who can have the gift and are you evil because you have the gift? And, I'm a scholar, so I've studied, so I know who King James is and I know what was written and what was, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so, the conversation has started, and that's a beautiful thing.
It is, but it's so funny, like, the parallels between, like, that discussion and, like, being gay, you know. Like,
what's so interesting is...
within the past century. I mean, it's not even, like past, you know...
I have said, I
history.
said this yesterday in the thing, to say, you know, I didn't share, like, all these times, right? So I read, like, a few comments, right? My brother, he's probably read, like, all 5,000 of them, right? And he's like, and I've responded to them, right? But it's like, people are like, oh, you can't be a minister in a medium, like, you're going to hell, and it's like, and I was like, nobody said anything about me being gay. Right. But I was like, they don't even care, right? Like, nobody even cares about being gay anymore. Like, it's like that never came up, so.
Well, and it's funny, like, I wonder too, if there's, like, as it does kind of start stepping into the light a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if there's going to be some more overlap too, because I am, you know, I'm curious. Like, I was just reading an article that someone we know wrote about her connection to one of the characters on, like, Haunting of Hill House, who is, like, very much an empath.
Okay.
And for her, it, like, a lot of that also, like, you know, had to do with her childhood and, like, how she grew up and everything, but also I think that there's a way in which queer people are, like, attuned to the world around them and the people around them in, like, a slightly different way, because you have to be. You know, like, you have to be able to read people, and you have to be able to read situations, and I'm curious, like, especially for a community that I think does have that connection to spirituality, but so often doesn't find that in church form necessarily. Like, I'm really curious, like, how that overlap is going to start looking, you know?
I am too, and I think that one thing my bishop has been so supportive of this journey, and I asked him before the YouTube series came out. It came out in September of last year, and so we had a conversation probably about August, and I said, you know, like, this is coming out, and this is who I am, and if you want me to give this collar back, like, I gotta give it back, because I gotta do what God is calling me to do in the world. And he says, no, like, I'm not gonna sit you down, you're not gonna give it back. He says, what you are gonna do is you're gonna walk in the tension of being a medium and a minister, and figuring out what that means. And so I will say that I'm figuring out what that means from September of 2018 to May of this year. Like, it was easy breezy. Like, I had done the news here. I had done Sister Circle Live on TV1. Had an article in Plastique, Sheen Magazine, Rolling Out Magazine, like, all of these different things, right? And everyone is just singing my praises. And it's, oh my God, like, and people are calling me and they're saying, especially women of color, you know, I grew up in the church. I wasn't sure how to feel about this. But because you said you love Jesus and you love God, I felt good about calling you, you know. And then this article comes out, you know, on Christian Post, and all of a sudden, like, I'm literally sitting there, and I'm like, it comes out, and I see, I'm on Facebook, and I'm like, you're going to hell. You're the devil. And I'm like, what happened? And then somebody tags me in this article, and I'm like, oh, like, this got real, right?
Yeah.
And so, and it's, like, blowing up, and it's like, immediate, right? And so my bishop, his husband texted me, and he goes, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm having a cocktail. What y'all doing, right? Because I knew that it's all a part of the divine plan. That God was saying, we got to have these conversations. And that God is saying, I will not be boxed in. I will not be boxed in the gender. I will not be boxed in the politics. I will not be boxed in anything that you human beings are trying to box me into, you know. And I was like, let's do it.
Jesus is anti-labels is what you're saying.
I do believe that. And I think that one day we will get to the point where we will understand that gender is the biggest illusion.
Like, we're going into a completely different.
Yeah, I love
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, because it is. It's like, it's too many different, you know, like, why would God only make this and this without having so many other varieties and stuff to choose from? And I think that we will get, just like I was saying, like, there was no conversation about me being LGBT. That we're getting past that. You know, we're going to get past the gender thing. And we're really going to move into more of, who am I in the spirit? What did my soul come here to do? What is my soul's mission? Because we got to get out of ego to do that.
We've watched the YouTube series. We didn't fly in time to make the group reading yesterday.
Yeah.
But I know it sounds like a lot of, like, your description of what your gift is has to do with, like, energies.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and like, how do you notice a difference with like how people's energies change with orientation, with gender, with like, does that come into play at all? Is that like completely a separate thing?
I don't know. I think it's less, and that's why I say I feel like gender being an illusion, right? And when I say gender, in terms of even our orientation, right? Because I'm somebody like, the way I feel about it is to have to announce that I am a lesbian means that you are only interested in how I have sex, right? Or to say I'm gay, or to say, like, why are we having to announce who and how we have sex? Like, I'm beyond that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like, I'm so beyond that conversation of, it's none of your business.
Yeah.
You know, I think that I am fortunate enough that I have parents and family who is super supportive, but I don't want to have to make that announcement. So I think that for me, it is more about energy. And I think that the energy, it's not necessarily if you're straight or if you're gay or if you're, I think it's just that, are you woke? Are you open? Are you in tune with yourself? Or are you full of ego? You know, because I have friends who are LGBT who have no sense of spirituality because they're so full of ego and so stuck on, you know, this, I'm gay and I can't have straight friends. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, no, like, you know, you don't have no friends because you're not friendly. Like, and so, I think that we'll get to a place. My hope is that we'll get to a place beyond that. But in terms of my own energy, I really think it's just really who's open, you know, to receiving the information. But I do think that because LGBT people have been marginalized, you know, and on the margins, it does provide for a different experience in terms of acceptance, in terms of openness, if that makes sense, than people who probably aren't, or, you know, races or orientations and whatever that aren't necessarily on the margin.
I'm curious, why did you start your YouTube series? What was like the catalyst to start The Gift?
So, this is not something I have ever wanted to do, right? Let's be clear on that, right? Really, truly. Because I've been practicing for a very long time, but it was a private practice. And I would only work on referrals. So if you came to me, then you knew exactly what I did. And you weren't skeptical. You weren't, you know, you wanted to connect to loved ones who had passed.
Mm-hmm.
And so people came very open and very vulnerable and very willing to have this experience. And so, you know, even with being a minister, God, it's just like God is like the ultimate chess player, right? God was like, yeah, you gotta go be a minister. I'm like, all right, right. So I do the minister thing. And then shortly after, God was like, yeah, so then you gotta do this YouTube thing where you have to announce, you know, you have to tell people what your gift is. And I'm going like, God, you're pushing it, right? You are really pushing it now, right? But I'm so sold out on this. This is my soul's mission and moving in alignment with my soul's mission. And I was like, okay, I got to take me out of it because Lakara is not interested in celebrity or being, but if my soul is saying this is what we need to do, then we're going to do it. So God said, this is what we're going to do. And I had no money, right? I was like, literally like, okay, God, because I talked to God, if this is what we're doing, you're going to make this happen. Mm-hmm. And so the resources started lining up. And people will say, you know what was your budget? We didn't have no money. Like, we had a camera. And I would, like, call people, and I would, like, Spirit would lead me to people, and I would say, like, hey, like, we're doing this series. I would love to give you a reading. It will be free, but can we, you know, you can show your gift, I'll show my gift. And so that's pretty much, you know, how that happened. But the main thing was really about healing. And even when people could not get a reading themselves, they could watch the series and get some healing of just knowing my loved one is always with me, right?
Yes.
And so I think that for me, like, that has been the main thing that, you know, I will have, it happens all the time. Like, people will call me and say, I really want to get a reading. I can't afford it. One day I'll be able to afford it. And I'll be like, okay, like, call me tomorrow at 5. Like, we'll have the reading, you know. Yeah, so that's why I ended up doing it. But I knew that doing it this way was going to take it to a larger platform. Exactly how God had shown me, you know. But it really is about healing the masses and showing people. And as a Christian, like, God said that we would have eternal life, right? And I believe that the medium gives evidence of God's promise of eternal life. Like, God said, how else are they going to know that I've kept my promise? And so people think that you die and then that's it. No, your soul goes on. And, you know, I say there's only heaven, right? So that's the whole thing. It's like, you don't believe in hell? Like, no, I don't believe in hell. I believe that we are reunited with Source, right? We are reunited with oneness when we depart these physical bodies. And so people say, well, can you just do anything? Yeah, you really can do anything, but why would you want to? Like, why would you not want to experience how good it feels to be good to other people? That's my thought.
It's a great thought.
Yeah, I love that. Can you tell our listeners if they want to find the gift, where can they find that? Where can they find you or learn more about what you're doing?
Absolutely. So YouTube is Lakara Foster TV, right? Or they can just search Lakara Foster the Gift and it'll come up there. And then on Instagram and Facebook, it's Lakara with the Gift.
Thank you so much for talking to us, Lakara.
You're welcome. Thank you all for having me.
Let me hear you say hip, 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 yeah. We love hearing from you and building our community, so we want to shout out some of our favorite things each episode. In this episode, I want to give a shout out to Leah. She reached out on our Facebook page about how much she loves the show. When you send a Facebook message, it says like question ... And she just said, no question, just love. So
just love.
Thank you, Leah. We really appreciate it. And we appreciate you listening. So I just wanted to say thank you. And no question, just love.
Just love.
Just love.
We also just love, as always, our Lesbian Jesus patrons, Amy and Ellen,
Lizette Stye,
Tanya Ferguson,
Jess Klaus,
Danny Griswold,
Michelle Ray Thomas,
Sarah and Julia,
Nicole Gross,
Carrie Ann Lawrence,
Mark Foster,
Danny Gunlock Tamora,
Sammy Walsh,
Audrey O'Connor,
and Wendy K. Bartlett.
And our King Princess patrons, Kayla Kelly,
and Amy and Ellen. Thank you all so much. We could not do all of the amazing things that we do without you, and we really appreciate every single one of you.
See you in a few weeks.
Remember, you can also find us on all the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Let's Hang Out Pod.
You can send us an email at letshangoutpod@gmail.com.
Or you can check out our website at letshangoutpod.com.
Make sure that you subscribe on whatever app you use to listen to podcasts so that you'll be the first to know as soon as new episodes go up every week.
We're also putting videos up on our YouTube channel this season, so make sure you subscribe at youtube.com/letshangoutpod to catch them.
If you want to help support the podcast, there are so many ways that you can do that. The first one, rate and review us on iTunes. It's so easy, it's so free, and it helps new people find the podcast.
If you want to support us financially, you can do that at Patreon at bit.ly/lespatreon. We have a lot of cool perks there. We have drinking games for our Lescentials. We have Lescentials watch parties. We have blooper reels. We have merch discounts if you want to get some of
ad-free episodes. All sorts of good stuff.
So many good things. Speaking of merch, Lee.
We also have a merch store, and there's a ton of good stuff in it. And if you order right now, there is still time to get things in time for the holidays. I think depending on how you're getting it shipped, it's either December 12th to December 18th, somewhere in that window that you have to order by. But we have some fun. We still have our Homo for the holiday. Blech. We still have our Homo for the Holidays designs up. We also have a new holiday design up. That's Ellie's Unwrap Me, I'm Gay. It's beautiful. You know you want it. Let people know what they're getting, you know, as soon as they look at you. All of those are available along with all of our other merch. So check it out. You can find it at bit.ly/lesshop.
If you want to find us individually, you can find me at Ellie Brigida on Instagram and Twitter.
And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at LSH Foster.
With that, I'm Ellie.
And I'm Lee.
And let's hang out again soon.
Let's hang out.
Buffet brawlers, glory holes gone wrong, cannibalistic castration cabins, public poopers? These are just a few of the crazy topics you'll hear covered on Excuse Me, That's Illegal, the pettiest podcast around. Whether you need a break from all that murdery true crime stuff, or just enjoy hearing hilarious stories told in a unique way, I got what you need. I'm Leroy Luna, your fearless host/chauffeur. So come hop in my minivan and let's go for a ride. I promise you probably won't be disappointed. Excuse Me, That's Illegal is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, basically everywhere you consume podcasts, with new episodes dropping on the 10th, 20th, and 30th of the month, baby!